remember standing in front of a judge. I had just caught my third and my fourth dope case, and they were going to charge me as a habitual criminal. And he looked me dead in the eyes and he says, I don't see any reason to sentence you to under 20 years. All the tough guy shit went out the window immediately. That might as well have been a life sentence. I was like, my life's over.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Journey to Solutions podcast, where we interview people from all walks of life so you can find solutions to the problems that you're going through today. Their stories are to shine light that no matter where you come from, no matter what you've been through, that with God, anything is possible. And today's special guest, I'm blessed to have here. He flew all the way from Texas to share his time with us. He's a former ultra runner. He is the host of the I Am Redemption podcast. He's a motivational speaker. He's a hope dealer. He's a recovery advocate. He's a person who loves helping people in any way that he can. He will fly to you. He will call you. He will find you. He's just a good person all around. He's people-centered, and that's what people need. And we're blessed to have him here today. And not to mention, he has 8 years clean and sober, which is a blessing because we know addiction is the hardest battle a human can ever experience. So guys, I want to introduce Shawn Livingston.
My brother, thank you. Appreciate you very much, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here too. You know, getting to know you from the last time you came out here and getting to know you this time, you know, you really are who you say you are. That you are a very selfless person that's not about the money. You're like, I just want to help people. And I want to be around people who are like that too, because if we come together, then we can help out more people. Yeah. I love that about you because it's very rare to find nowadays. But when you do find those people, right, we got to stick together. And so what I want to ask you is, you've done amazing things in your life, right? I've seen your social media, your podcast. I mean, running 100 miles, that's insane, right? Most people will never know what that's like. And you do a lot of good for the community.
Thank you.
I want to know, what was your life like before all this? Before you had those 8 years sober, before you were doing all that, like, who was Shawn Livingston then?
He wasn't shit. You guys swear on here?
Yeah,
apologies.
That's fine.
Bro, just a very self-centered, naive, selfishly driven person. You know, I always, even as an addict, even at my worst, I like to think I still had the heart that I did.
Yeah.
I didn't ever maliciously go out and hurt people. You know what I mean? I didn't steal any of those type of things. But I wasn't a good person. In my eyes, you know, I think addiction and all that brings us a lot of tendencies and a lot of characteristics that are not savory. And so I was just lost, misguided, looking up to the wrong type of people, glorifying the wrong ways of life, glorifying a Scarface lifestyle or running around thinking you're a gangster, thinking you're a tough guy and all that. You know, I think a lot of that was a facade, a tough guy facade that I felt that I had to put on for whatever reason. And things would tend to happen into my life, and God came into my life in a way where I got stripped of all that. And I realized that I was just continuing to lead myself down the wrong path.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. And, you know, and you said some things too that what I want to touch on is, you know, again, right, addiction, right? We're not bad people. We just make a lot of bad decisions. Yep. And so the stigma becomes, you know, addicts are bad people. Addicts are, you know, it's not a disease. They know what they're doing. They just don't care about you. And as we know, it's not true, right? It's a disease. Right. And when you have that disease, you make really dumb decisions on it, right? Because that's what happens, right? It changes who we are. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of mentality. And so for you, from your experience and reflection, because I want to ask a couple of things on you said, why do you think for you went through like that, you became addicted? Like, what was it? Because people can pick up. Right. People can put it down. What do you think it was for you that was happening inside you that you just couldn't put it down? Like, what was it doing for you?
What was it doing for me? I think it was masking a lot of insecurity, masking a lot of pain that I didn't want to deal with. I think a lot of it stemmed from, you know, attention-seeking behavior or wanting to feel accepted, wanting to feel like I was a part.
And why didn't you feel? Why did you feel like you needed to be accepted and be a part of?
I think looking, being 8 years sober now, I've kind of been able to take a look back at my life.
Yeah.
And my dad left when I was 2. Not necessarily, nothing tragically happened, but I think my dad leaving at 2, and then my mother, she was going to school at the time. She was trying to provide a better life for me. And so it was a lot of latchkey kid in and out, outside playing all the time, a lot of time at grandma's, a lot of time at babysitters. While my mom was going to go to do school. And so I look back then and I see the attention-seeking behavior, wanting attention, but not necessarily knowing why I wanted attention or needed it. And then I think being an addict, I tend to throw all my eggs in one basket. And so growing up, I had a passion for the game of basketball. So I had all these naive dreams that I was going to go play college ball and I was going to be in the NBA and all that. And I think I got in a car accident my junior year. And so that was like a pretty pivotal moment in my life looking back, because I got in this car accident and basketball kind of got taken from me. And then I see myself then, and if your entire identity was just taken away from you at this young age of being a sophomore, junior in high school, then it's looking around like, who am I?
Yeah.
What is this? And so I think it was very easy for me to just kind of segue into the party crowd. That's where the girls were, and I was good at partying. I could hold my stuff. I never drank as much as you can drink, never puked, all that. I just could handle my stuff well. And then I think,
and in that world, that's cool, right? Yeah. When you're in that world, man, you could drink all that. You don't black out. Right. He can handle this. It's almost like it's like a badge of honor in that world.
Yeah, for sure. And then just, I think like any other addict, or a lot of other addicts, you hear you say, you finally put that one substance in your body where you like feel like you're you.
Yeah. And what does that mean exactly? Because that's so true, right? We drink, we get high, and we're like, I finally feel like myself.
Yeah.
What does that mean if someone's like, what do they mean by that?
I'll speak for me. As you walk into situations and it's, you're in a conversation, but constantly in the conversation, you're thinking about what the other person's thinking about everything you're saying. You know what I mean? And it's this insecure thing of like, now I'm very much like in the present moment, confident with what I say because I'm confident in who I am. Yeah. And I wasn't confident with any of that stuff back then. And so it's like the first time I drink, and now it's like, I don't care what these people think. I'm just going to do me. Yeah. And then you just all of a sudden start walking around with this confidence. And I think that confidence, that liquid confidence or that substance confidence is very intoxicating. Yeah. Because then you go into all these situations and it's like you need that social lubricant. Yeah. And then I think there's a lot of people out there, whether they're in recovery or addiction or not, like they need that social lubricant. Yeah. My wife is very much an introvert. She doesn't want to be out there in the front talking with people, going on podcasts or anything like that. But you get 1 or 2 beers in her, and then all of a sudden she's like ready to go and talk. And so I think most people are like that. Yeah. You and I just happen to have the gene where once we put it in our body, we're not stopping. Yeah.
I need this all the time now because it's making life easy for me finally.
Right.
I don't have to think all day about this event I'm going to. I just have a drink or a drug, and I'm like, I don't give a deal. I'm gonna have fun no matter what. Right. And it's hard too, because sometimes the drinking and the drug in the beginning, it's actually like a positive thing in our life. I'm making friends easier. I can talk to girls. I can go to these places now without having like feeling anxious or insecure. I'm laughing. I'm having fun. I feel confident. And so it could be difficult to be like, oh, this is probably a bad thing. Right. And when internally, like I'm finally feeling like safe and comfortable in my own skin for once.
Right. And especially when you're young, dude. Like I'm 42 now. Like I don't have that go in me. Like I go out for an afternoon and it's like, now I need to go back and like chill and take a nap. But when you're young, it's like we are recharged and ready to go every single day. And I think a lot of people growing up, you have that fear of missing out. And so FOMO. My friends are going out. Everybody's going out. If I'm not out, I'm going to be missing something. So I need to go out every night. I need that social lubricant. We do this over and over until it just grabs a hold of us.
Yeah. And the thing you said before that too, right, is I think a lot of people, when we don't know who we are, right, abandonment issues, neglect, or whatever happens to us, and you get good at something and you get praised for something, like you said, it becomes your identity. I'm the basketball player. I'm the skateboarder. I'm the singer. I'm the runner, whatever it is. Yep. I'm the smart person in school. What happens when that's taken from you? And like you said, it's almost like a midlife crisis at a very young age, identity crisis, I would say. So for you, that's where we're at, right? So you get in this car accident, right? Like you said, you were a basketball player. That was your identity. Probably filtered the need to be accepted and a part of, right? And so it's taken from you. So then you go the route of party people, and then you realize you're really good at partying, right? And so So you're good at partying. That's happening. What starts to happen after that when you start partying now? Like, where's your life start going?
I mean, I definitely don't think I came out of the gate an addict or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to keep it, under control. And I've just started to think recently, I got a very severe concussion in that car accident.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always wondered, because that's literally where my life took this turn.
Mm-hmm.
I had drank before all that, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Smoked weed, done those things, and it didn't quite do the same thing for it did for me after.
Yeah.
And so I've always wondered the science behind, what did that do? Did that cause this? Because I've heard stories of that before, but
I had a concussion in 4th grade.
See?
You know what I mean? So
especially being that young, the age we are, still in your teens, still in your formative years. But I ended up joining the military like right after 9/11, and so that kind of kept me, the structure of all that kept me going good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of us can operate very well within structure, and it's when we get outside of that structure, left to our own devices, where things go bad. And so the military kept me straight for a while. I did 6 years in the Air Force.
Okay.
And then I bounced all around the country, but I didn't quite have the life experience to know how good I had it in the Air Force. So I had gotten stationed over in Germany. I was homesick. I thought I was missing all these amazing things my friends were doing. And I ended up getting out of the Air Force, came back to Youngstown, Ohio, and Oxycontin had just like leveled the area. I didn't see hard drugs until I got well out of high school.
Okay.
Now I go back and there's high school kids, grade school kids on Oxy. I mean, it tore our area apart. So then I go back there and I start dabbling in that. And that was the first time where I had done the drug where it was like, oh, wait a minute. Like,
wow.
I've been putting coke up my nose for years, and it gets me out there a little bit, but now I can drink, I can go to sleep, I can do this. I don't have bloody tissues at the end of the night. Like, let's go. And so then it was kind of.
How old are you when you started doing Oxy?
I would have been 20, probably 21-ish, 22.
Okay, so at this point you haven't touched Oxy, you've been doing party drugs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then 21 years old, you take your first pill, and you have another aha moment again, huh?
Right. And then didn't take me long after that to start burning stuff down, especially in my hometown. And so that didn't last quick. And then, I know, and then immediately we want to remove ourselves from family or anything like that and isolate away from that. So over the next 2 years, I bounced around to 5 different states, and ended up in Miami, Florida at one point. Tried to get Oxy, couldn't score any Oxy, but they told me they could get heroin. Did that, realized it was cheaper and more easily accessible, and so then there was that.
So now you go from Oxy, you go to heroin, and so at this point, 20 when you get into Oxy, at what point would you say is when it started getting really bad? Like what were those like rock bottom moments? Like when it started getting really bad?
Rock bottom moments. So many of them. I mean, I'd say that probably the first rock bottom moment was when I was in Miami and I'd burned everything to the ground and had to make the call home. I had no other options left, and so I had to try to get some help. And so making that call, and I didn't even have it in me to call my own mom and do it. I had to call my aunt so she would call my mom, because I just couldn't face my mom and tell her that, because I knew the disappointment. Yeah. And then, I'd say of all my entire life, my rock bottom moment was sitting in a prison cell years later.
Okay, so you go to prison. The prison's part of your story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sitting in a prison cell, my mother would no longer pick up the phone. She wouldn't take a collect call from me anymore. And the last thing she had said to me at that point was like, I can no longer stand by and contributing to your demise. And so that was like this major moment where I'm like looking around where I was like, man, if mom won't pick up the phone, you've done something serious now. And
what was that for you specifically? Because I know that's not everyone's story. When mom kind of finally speaks up, it doesn't really affect them as much. Why do you think for you, hearing your mom say that really, like, for you, affected you the way it did?
I don't know, because I think I remember walking into prison, and I remember like I had an overwhelming sense of like I was not raised like this. I was not raised. I put myself in bad neighborhoods. I put myself around bad people. I choose to do that. I didn't grow up in that. We grew up very middle class. My childhood was in a trailer, so it was very, very modest growing up. We didn't have a ton of money. My mom would become a teacher and a college professor after that. So later in my years, when I was in the Air Force, they started doing well. But I don't know. I could just remember not being raised like that. And, my mother's like a lot of lot of kids, you know, your mother's your biggest fan.
Yeah.
Not for everybody, but in a lot of cases. In my case, my mom absolutely was. She raised me as a single mother for years. She didn't miss my basketball games. She didn't miss my football games or anything like that. She was always very present. And so to know that I had taken her to that point where she just won't even pick up the phone for me. It was just a major moment where, and don't get me wrong, like I didn't learn my lesson at that moment. It's not like I got sober right after that, but that was my rock bottom moment where I go back and it's just like, another rock bottom moment. I remember, after, and this is years after that, I remember I got popped for heroin possession again. I think at the time I was on bond in 3 counties, all felonies and everything. And I was supposed to be going home to my grandfather's funeral, which is my mother's father. And I was calling, they were literally at the funeral home picking out his casket. And I was having to call home from county jail in Waco, Texas. And my baby sister answered the phone. And at the time I'm going to guess like 11 or 12. And I'm sitting there, my mom wouldn't even deal with me. And I'm sitting there trying to walk my 12-year-old sister on how to call a bondsman and how to get me bailed out of jail. And I'm sitting there trying to plead with them on the phone that I have to make it home for my grandfather's funeral. I have to make it home for my grandfather's funeral. And I just wanted out of jail. You know, very, very, very selfishly. Not even thinking about what my mother's going through at that point. The fact that my grandfather's gone, the fact that my little sister is at her most impressionable age, and this is what I'm doing to her. And then I just remember getting home and going to the funeral and looking at my grandfather in the casket, and it was like he knew and saw everything I had been doing, and I just busted out crying right there. And yes, I was sad my grandfather was gone, and I'm sure that was a portion of the reason that I was crying. But the main reason I was crying was just the overwhelming sense of guilt of the life of bullshit that I've been living. And I knew that it was like he was up in heaven staring deep into my soul. And that's a story I don't even ever think I've even told on my own podcast or anything like that. But just talking about it now, it came to me. And so that was a major moment. You know, you just feel like there's no more, everybody knows my bullshit by this point. You know?
Yeah, it's scary, huh? How like addiction will literally like isolate us little by little from people and hurt the people we love the most. And there's times where it desensitizes you so much where life's still happening. Yeah. Like, you know, like our siblings are growing up, our mom's hurting, our family members are dying, maybe that we were close to, or whatever's happening in the world, and we're just so checked out, just so either we're high or drunk at that moment, we're sick. We're out of our mind in some type of psychosis or just, you know, coming down, or we're so focused on just trying to get a fix. And we don't realize like life is happening, and we don't realize that how many people we're hurting. Yeah. Worrying about us, whatever the conversations they're having, because people do love us. And there's a study that every addict hurts about a minimum of 30 people, you know, just because you don't see what's really going on around you, because people do care. I remember when I found my mom's journal, for 10 years, that's not exaggerating, for 10 years, she was praying every day I'll get sober. Really? I remember I found out when you're sober, and I was like, what is this? She's like, that's the thing I was praying every day. And I looked at the pages and just looking at like every day. And it was crazy because I found the one the day I did get sober. You know what I mean? So I was grateful that I'm like, thank God I was able to give you that. But yeah, that's the pain we put people through.
Yeah. Dude, I remember I was probably 5 years sober at the time. And I remember having a conversation with my mom and like, taking a look back at my recovery these past 8 years, like I'm pretty confident in the body of work that I've put together. I'm pretty proud of the things that I've been, you know, God has blessed me to be able to do. And I can remember sitting there and my mom sitting there saying, we were talking about something, and, you know, my wife was there. She was my girlfriend at the time, my stepfather. And we were talking about some things, and she was talking about times when she'd come down to visit, and, you know, we like to live in this delusional world where it's like, all right, mom's coming to visit. I'm going to hold together for this week that she's going to be here. Yeah. And that lasts maybe 24 hours before we get dope sick or we don't have money or we do whatever.
Or, well, it was good seeing you. I gotta
go. And I remember her looking at me and she's starting to tell all these stories. And she's like, well, do you remember when you did this? Do you remember when you did this? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, I don't understand. Like, how don't you remember these things? And I was like, I was high. Like, I don't remember any of these things. Like, I'm so sorry. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to say in this moment. I believe you, absolutely believe you. I did everything you're doing. And then I remember her being like, I I just don't understand how you're okay with it. And so it was like me trying to explain this recovery dynamic to my mom. And it was like, Mom, like I use my experience to help other people every day. It was all those things that made me who I am today. And I wouldn't change that for anybody. And so while I'm not good with it, I hate that I hurt people. It has given me this unique ability to be able to touch people that most people like aren't able to touch.
Right.
And so that was to come from all that to be able to turn it positive. But for the outside person that have not physically gone through it to try to explain that dynamic is just, it's different.
Yeah, it's hard to understand, right? Because again, so you're saying all that bad stuff you did now is okay. And it's like, that's not what we're saying.
Right.
I'm just trying to say, like, I have to look at my life like that in order to live with it. I feel bad. I feel guilt. I know what I did wasn't wrong. But if I keep on letting that get to me, I'm never going to be clean and sober.
Right.
So I have to have a perception change. And I think that's why we understand it. I think what's unfortunate, right? Some people too might see like, well, if this person has hurt me, how dare their life get better? How dare they say all these positive things? Like, I know who they really are. But the reality is, and I'm like, it's unfortunate that people see it that way. And I get it, right? Everyone's valid to have their things, right? But I think at the end of the day, we're sick people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest reason why people got to look at it as a disease. Like, hey, I do coke. I'll take a $20,000 loan right now. Yeah, in a second. No problem. And then that's what's going to happen. That's going to affect me.
Yeah.
I'll cheat on my partner if I'm getting high.
Yeah.
Why would you? Yeah, well, I'll steal from my mom. Why would you? It's addiction.
Yeah.
And so when people could kind of separate addiction as like that, like it's not him, it's not her, it's a disease.
Yeah.
If you have cancer, you throw up, you lose your hair, and you're kind of foggy. People are not getting mad at you.
Right.
You have dementia, people are not getting mad at you for not remembering. But people look at us, again, it's still like a hard thing because it is so, it hurts more people in a sense, right? It's very loud and stuff like that. And so for you, as it's happening, this whole scenario with your grandpa and all this stuff that's happening, right? You're having these rock bottom moments. What was it for you that you needed to finally be like, you know what, like enough's enough, and you started this like sober journey for you?
If you, there was a point where I had already, whenever I go speak, I usually tell people like one of my biggest flaws was I used to run around and think I was like the tough guy. Thought I was just this bad motherfucker. And I remember standing in front of a judge. I just caught my third and my fourth dope case, and they were going to charge me as a habitual criminal. And he looked me dead in the eyes and he says, I don't see any reason to sentence you to under 20 years.
Wow.
And that was it.
What did that feel like hearing that?
Bro,
if you remember,
all the tough guy shit went out the window immediately. And I was just like, like I'd already done time. And I was like, 20 years, like that might as well have been a life sentence. I was like, my life's over. And so I walked out of that courtroom like completely humbled, like I'm fucked. And so I remember talking to my lawyer and I was like, man, is there any chance that I could hop into a program, try to get into treatment, at least try to get sober enough to like attempt to get back on speaking terms with my family? Any other time before that I had gone to treatment, it was to get out of trouble. And now for the first time, I'm asking to legitimately go to try to get sober, to try to salvage things with my family. And they said, yeah, if you can get into treatment, go. And so I did like 8 months at the VA, and I am not a tremendously organized person. If it wasn't for my wife, I'd be out of there. But for whatever reason, during that time and all this time at the VA, I started keeping a folder of like all the work I had been doing, every note that I took, meeting I went to, worksheet, test, and I would just slide it into this folder. I have no idea why I did it. God was doing something for me I couldn't do for myself. Right. And at the end of that 8 months, I remember going, it was time for sentencing. And so I'm going to catch my 20 years. And I remember showing up to my lawyer's office. It was a week or two before the sentencing hearing. And I happened to bring that folder, and I gave him the folder just because I wanted him to know that like I was very thankful he had got me this time to be able to get clean. And so I showed him the folder and his jaw dropped. And he's like, Shawn, I never expected this out of you. Like, you've really given me something to work with here. You're a combat veteran. Like, you're obviously taking the steps to change your life. Like, I'm not promising anything. Whatever you're doing, I just need you to keep doing it. Let me go talk to the judge. And so as soon as he said that, it was as long as I can remember that I had finally had this like ray of hope. And I remember walking out of the office and I was like, I will do whatever it takes. And so I went back to the VA to try to get back into the VA, and they were like, no, you've done too much time here. We can't accept you back. So the only place that would accept me was a 6-month program, inpatient treatment in Austin, Texas. That was state funded. And anybody that's been to state-funded treatment knows it's not luxurious by any means.
Yeah, you don't get a mint chocolate on your pillow.
No, none of that.
No deep tissue massages and petting horses.
Yeah, there's no equine therapy. But I remember, and then the fact of 6 months of treatment. Like I can remember a time in my life where I wanted to sit there and argue IOP. Like I didn't even need just outpatient treatment. Like I didn't need any of that. And I couldn't have been more excited to take this 6 months of treatment. Like 6 months in retrospect to 20 years, I'll take every time.
Yeah.
And so I walked in there focused, ready. I had already had 8 months sobriety time up under my belt. And, that coupled with getting into healthy living and exercise and all that stuff, it just transformed my entire experience in treatment. And I got sober in a state-funded facility.
That's right.
It didn't matter the bougie treatments I had been to or any of the mid-tier ones or any of that. And so in answer to your question, that folder and that ray of hope was the thing that kind of changed the tide for me. And
so you did the 8 months in the VA and then you did the 6 months in treatment. When you were 6 months in treatment, was the 20 years still hanging over your head too when you had those 6 months? Or
right towards the end of it, we ended up going to the sentencing hearing, and they ended up giving me max probation, 10 years.
So no time.
No time.
Prison.
10 years probation, and then I discharged. They said I was the fastest person to ever discharge probation in Travis County history. That I got it right on the 5-year mark. So they let me off.
So let me ask you this, because I can only imagine. Let's say 8 plus 6. What is that? It's like 14 months. Let's just say. 14 months of this worry. Am I going to do the 20 years, right? Because you see that happen, right? I work with people all the time, and I'm looking at this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was going away. There was no debating whether I was going away. I just thought I was going away. So it was like,
oh, so there was you had no hope. You're like, I'm going away. Let me do this. That was your mindset the whole time.
Yeah.
What made you not? If you knew you were going away, what helped you stay though in treatment? Because sometimes people might say, I'm already going away, so fuck it. I'm just going to blow up my life anyways. It doesn't matter. But you chose, well, if I'm going to go away, then I'm just going to do this. I'm going to stay in treatment. I'm going to do this. Like, what helped you stay on that path versus saying just fuck it?
I think it's because I entered into treatment now for the right reasons. Like I was actually trying to get sober for the right reasons. So I was actually listening. I was actually going to meetings. I was actually doing the 12 steps. I can remember it was me and a group of 5 guys going to my first AA meeting ever. And week after week, one would fall off, the other one would fall off, the other one would fall off, to where it was just me sitting in the room, you know what I mean, with all the rest of the people in AA. And I remember being like mad at them. It's like, we were doing this together.
Yeah,
like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I was just finally getting what I needed from the program. I was starting to feel some of the benefits of the 12 steps and, you know what I mean, starting to understand a little bit more. And I think I just did it for the right reasons. And so at the end of the day, like a lot of my messaging is like, it doesn't matter where you go to treatment. It could be state funded. It could be Passages Malibu for all I care.
Yeah.
Like if you go there with the right intention and you really want to get what you need to get out of it, you're going to get it.
Yeah. And I truly believe that. I truly believe, because a lot of people like to talk crap on treatment centers for how they do things, but then you always hear that one person that's like, that place changed my life. Yeah. And that humbled me to be like, you know what? God's in control, not me. He can use any situation to help somebody. And that's a beautiful thing. And so for you, I mean, one, that's amazing, right? So you come to the end of your VA, you're doing your treatment, you get good news, right? What was that like when you heard that? If you remember that day, you're 10 years probation and not having to go, like, what was it like?
If this makes sense, that's going to come off the wrong way. I don't want to say I felt like I deserved it, but I knew how far I had come. I knew what I was doing. I knew the impact. I got involved in running, in the running community when I was in treatment. And I watched the entire treatment center like take this turn where I would leave and I'd be going to I got special permission to go to this run group in the morning, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I'd go run. I was never a runner growing up. Running ended up transforming my mental health and my life in a very profound way that I didn't know was possible.
And that was when you had the 6 months in treatment? That's what you experienced it?
Yeah. I was in treatment, and I remember taking a look in the mirror and I just hated who I saw. I had a gut out to here, felt like shit, looked like shit. I had 8 months sobriety time up under my belt, but I probably would have went and got high just because of not being in a structured environment.
Yeah.
And so I go and I start doing this running group just to like lose a little bit of weight. And all of a sudden, you know, when I got out of the military, I was diagnosed PTSD, depression, anxiety disorder, panic disorder, agoraphobia, sleep disorder, nightmares, everything. And they just like slid me 15 bottles of pills.
Right.
And I tried taking it, and it was just a Band-Aid on the issues that I was having. But I started running, and then I started getting involved in the community, and these mental health things started kind of melting away. And then I was going back around the treatment center, and I went from the tough guy in the back of the room to all of a sudden now I'm sitting up front.
Yeah, taking notes.
And now all of a sudden I'm shaking everybody's hand
Yeah.
coming through the door instead of mean mugging them. And it transformed me. It transformed the experience I had in treatment. And then I watched, it was the first time people wanted some of what I had. And so people would come to me every night and they'd be like, what time you leave for the morning in the run? And I'm like, 4:30. And they're like, all right, I'm going to be down there. And I'd be lucky if I got one person.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But I got one, and then I got 3, and then I got 5. And then at one time I had all 16 people, the entire treatment center, walking to downtown Austin at 4:30 in the morning, like mobbing down there with me.
That's cool.
And I watched as I started running races, and I feel like in early recovery or just anybody that's having a tough time in life, like we need some wins. We need to feel what it feels like to overcome some adversity.
Yeah,
right?
little wins are so important as we're working, because there's some things that are just gonna take time when it comes to our recovery. Like there's certain things like it's just one day at a time. So those little wins, whatever it is, right? It's encouraging.
Right. I remember hearing somewhere, I don't know if it's a book or whatever it is, but they said, just starting your day off by making your bed.
Yeah.
At least if you do that, you already have that win under your belt.
Yeah.
And so I can remember going and doing these runs, and I'd come back to the treatment center and I'd be showered. My bed's made all perfect. I got back into my military routine.
As I say, yeah.
All my shoes are just right dressed. I'm ready to go. And I'd be down in the courtyard ready to rock and roll on level 10. I'd already run 4 miles that morning. And I'm like, I had finally got that dopamine and serotonin going in my brain. And so everybody else in the treatment center is just walking up and they're sliding across the ground, wiping sleepers out of their eyes. And I'm like, yo, let's go.
Yeah, I just ran 4 miles right now, guys. Right. Let's go.
And then I started watching these guys jump into races with me and start running their first 5K and all that. And then them coming back all on fire. And I was just like, man, like this is really cool. This is really special. And so I did all this treatment, and throughout doing the treatment and getting involved in the running community, all of a sudden now, what nobody ever talked to me about, or what I didn't ever know, is like you get into the program, you get into the 12 steps and all that stuff, and the bar is let's get sober. And I didn't know that I was capable of any more than that. And so I got in touch with this other community, and I start running these races, and then I do a 5K, and then I do a 10K, and then I do a 30K, then I do a 50K. And I started doing all these long races, and these amazing group of people. They didn't care I was a former addict. They didn't care I was tattooed. They didn't care I was a felon. They cared if I was going to show up on Saturday morning and am I going to go run 22 miles on some trail with them. That's all they cared about. And so I'd found that's like I'd always trapped myself in this recovery bubble. But now I had discovered this other amazingly benefited community that I was getting so much from. And so that taught me like that recovery is my foundation. It can't necessarily be my life. It's on me to find a life. It's on me to find something that lights a fire up under my ass, that makes me excited to go out and do things, excited to even be alive. And running taught me that. And so getting those wins and going up and just, where does this stop? That's endless. My first run, I would try to run 2 miles. My lungs were on fire. I probably had Newport fiberglass coming out of every pore in my body. Yeah. And I run that 2 miles, but I felt that sense of accomplishment. And it's been so long since I think many of us have felt like that. If you don't run, go out and try to run a mile or two. It is tough. You go out and do that until all of a sudden you feel great running 2 miles. And you're like, hey, I'm going to run 3. Hey, I'm going to run 4. Hey, I'm going to run 5.
How far can I take this?
Bro, then it just keeps going up. And then you start realizing like, wait a minute, like running is more mental than it is physical. It's my brain that's stopping me from being able to run this far. It's my brain telling me to quit. My body still works. I could take another step. And so I think this running in this really cool way just gave this metaphor to recovery, to life, to all these different things. And so it's like, for me, it was running. For anybody else, it could be art, music, or anything, but challenge yourself, get those wins, get to understand that you are capable of far more. It's okay to fail. I've been a trainer now for the past 8 years, and one of the biggest barriers, or what kept me out of the gym for so long, was the fact that I was afraid to go in there and look stupid. I didn't want to go in there and let people see that I didn't know what I was doing. So I just stayed away from the gym. Now I've been in the gym for 7-8 years, and I'm like, how did I even live without this? All because I was in my own head and I was thinking that I was going to go in there and people were going to judge me. Like, I'm in the gym every day. I've never judged one person that's ever come walking through that door, because if you're there, you're in the right place, whether you're day 1 or day 1,000. Now, the people that get judged are the people that don't go to the gym. You know what I mean? And so it's like, take that next step, put your ego down, be willing to get uncomfortable, go get around good people, go get some wins, and watch how your life starts to build.
No, and I love that because and I want to touch more on the running too. That's where I wanted to take it because I got into ultra running, but the most I ever ran straight was I think like 22 miles, and then I got distracted, and then I was training for my buddy's 50-mile run in Asia while I was backpacking through 14 countries. But then a fire happened, so they canceled the run 2 days prior. So I love running and everything you were saying, right? The lessons that running can teach you about life and about how things work, right? And those little wins, how important they are for people in recovery and stuff like that. And do you feel like for you, if it wasn't for running, maybe you wouldn't have been sober? Like that, was that kind of that thing that really helped you? Because I know, like for me, I tell people if I didn't find the Magic House, I don't think I'd be sober. Because when I did AA, I remember I felt like, I was like a character. Like, there's more to this. There has to be more to this. People don't talk about it out there. You can't talk about this in here. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I was just kind of like, okay. But then I found this group of people who are just loud about it, throw parties about it, play music, have fun. And I was like, this is what I want. And so for me, my recovery journey for me was I was always meant to find this place. Like, that's so cool. And I truly believe if I didn't find that, I think for me, I would have went back out. This wouldn't have been enough. Do you feel like running for you is probably one of those things, like if it wasn't for running, I don't know if I would have maintained my recovery?
Probably, but it's a layered thing because I think at the end of the day, it was the community. Much like you found that community at Magic House, I found the running community. And so I think it's layered as in the science of whatever running did for my body and my brain. With running, I felt before I started running, it's like I got sober and I felt like I operated here and everybody else operated here. I was just in this constant fog. And I started running and it was like I came out of the fog. And so I think running, yes, but had I not got involved in that community or anything like that, I don't know that I would be sober today. I definitely don't think it was. I think God put certain people into my life that got me into running, that got me into ultra running, that I think it's just so layered that it was this perfect storm. And I also think, everybody always says it, but I don't know if they actually think about it. It's like mind, body, spirit.
Yeah.
Anytime I've ever tried to adjust the addiction thing, I tried to adjust it for mental health. And then I just tried to adjust it spiritual health. But I mean, we know what it's like being in the program. I know people that are 10 years sober, dude, and they're sitting there and it's like they're spitting vinegar out of their mouth. Yeah. It's like, that's what I got to look forward to. 10 years sober.
Is that what it's going to be like? Because I don't want this if that's what it is.
No. Yeah. I remember as I was getting into running and I'm sitting there 6 months, a year sober, it's like, dude, do you want to come for a run with me? Because you'll feel fucking great after this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think, mind, body, spirit. But to strip it all down, probably if I didn't find running, I probably wouldn't be sober today.
Yeah. And I think that's beautiful, right? Because it is right? We need to have our mind, our mental health, our spiritual health, and our physical health, right? That balance. And I believe, recovery, the rooms provide, right? The spiritual aspect, right? But hey, it teaches us not to drink. That's it. And not do drugs. Go get therapy. Figure out what else is going on inside of you, the mental health. And usually 99% of the time, there's mental health under our addiction. It's just what it is. Right. That's why I think a lot of people struggle when getting sober because they realize there's all these other issues and, they don't want to face it.
Right.
And then, as you said, you found the physical in which is the running. But it's more than just that, right? Because if you go work out, you go run, you do whatever sport, what comes with that is another family, another community. And sometimes, that excitement, right? Recovery, I always say there's sobriety, you just don't pick up, but you do no work. You have recovery, you work your steps. And then you have discovery, which is what is your purpose? Yep. And I think purpose is the thing that fulfills us. And some of us have a bigger purpose than others, and that's okay. It's not to say I'm better than you. I just truly believe that some of us are exceptional and we're meant for more, in our hearts. And so we need to find that thing in order to fill that within us so we don't go back the wrong path. For you, I really want to hear that story about the runner, or people to hear about the person that was teaching you how to run and you found out who they were back in your life. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people, experience God differently. I feel like God meets us where we're at, speaks to us in a way that will make us like, God has to be real, like whatever it is. And you have this powerful story. And I want people to hear this story of how God spoke to you and showed you how real he was.
Right. I mean, I always preface it when I tell this story is I think one of my biggest issues to, addiction was, or through my life was I wasn't a big God guy. And it's not that I didn't believe in God. I knew I believed in something.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know what I believed in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd always try to put God in a box, could
Mm-hmm.
never do it. At the end of the day, I don't know that our simple brains are meant to understand something as complex as God. But I think I always just neglected the word of having faith because I wanted to question everything. And so the story is what let me know that without a doubt, God is very, very real in my life. And so I was in the process of, it was the beginning of me getting kicked out of the military. I'd failed my first year analysis. And so they shipped me away to a 30-day facility in Austin. And I was not worried at all about getting sober. I was just worried about getting out of trouble and trying to salvage my military career. And so my MO my entire life has always been hang around the funny guys. I'm going to hang around the funny guys. We're going to talk shit. That's how we're going to pass time. So I end up going into treatment and immediately meet this dude. He's 5-6 years younger than me, funny as hell. And I was like, all right, cool. There's rehab, homie.
Let's
right.
Go. Yeah.
And so we're always chopping it up and cutting up and talking back in group and talking to girls and doing everything you shouldn't do. And then I break the cardinal rule of drug and alcohol treatment. I start dating one of the girls in the treatment center.
What was that called? Rehab love?
Yeah, something like that. I think there's a couple names for it, but one of the dumbest decisions I've personally ever made.
Yeah.
And so I get out of treatment and end up with this girl, end up in the most toxic 2-year relationship known to mankind. Start getting in trouble with the law, catch my first 2 felonies for heroin, and now I got to go away for a while. But in my mind, I'm good. Old girl's going to hold me down. My boys are going to hold me down while I'm gone. I go away. I don't get a letter. I don't get money on my books. I don't get anything. And so I get out and I make the logical drug addict decision that I'm going to look old girl up because I got to see what she's up to. I've been in prison. I'm lonely. And come to find out she's with my young homeboy from the treatment center. They're together now. And so I start texting her and she starts texting me back and she starts sneaking around behind his back to come see me. And then he finds out about me. And so he's texting me and calling me and we're going to meet, we're going to fight. And it's going to be all this shit. And so one night I remember I'd had enough of all the talk and he wouldn't ever come meet me. And so I went and found out where he lived and very nice gated community apartments. And I hopped the fence and I go up to his door and I'm knocking on it. I'm trying to get him to come outside and he wouldn't come out. And so in all honesty, I think the girl loved the fact that we were getting ready to fight over her. And so she was in there stoking the flame and, telling him to get out there and this, that, and the other. And so he didn't come out. And so she ends up packing up her stuff and she's leaving and she's coming with me. And so now I feel like I just won the grand prize. And so I'm all proud. And I have this bright idea that we're going to move to this little obscure town in Texas. And there's a VA there. And so because there's a VA there, that's why I'm going to get sober, which have no idea what I was thinking. And so we pull into town. I find the first little crackhead motel I can find. I get the room. We go in. She starts unpacking her stuff. And then all of a sudden out comes a laptop. And out comes an iPad, out comes a cell phone, PlayStation, and all this electronic shit I knew she didn't have the money for. And I never got down with stealing in my entire addiction. It was just always against my whatever inner values I had at the time, and I just never really stole. And so I didn't have any problem with him other than the girl. And now I got the girl back, so in my mind, we're good. And so I call him up and I let him know, hey, bro, got your stuff, not going to pawn it. You're more than welcome to come pick it up. And he thought I was trying to set him up for whatever reason. And so he ended up sending his mother to come pick up this stuff off me. Now, why you would send your mom to a shady motel in the middle of the night, I do not know. That's what he did. And so I gave the stuff back. That was that. And so now, fast forward 3 years later, I end up back in Austin, Texas. I end up in treatment. I take a look in the mirror, don't like who I see, start going to this running group, 2 miles turning into 3 miles, 3 miles turning into 4 miles. And then I start hearing about this woman named Penny, and that she runs these things called ultramarathons. And I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know humans could do that. Yeah. And so I go and I seek her out and I meet her and she's very nice. And I start begging her, man, will you please train me up for a race? I'd love to run a trail race. I'd love to get into this ultra running thing. And so she agrees immediately. And so she starts picking me up and taking me out on the trail. She's literally picking me up from my treatment center. I'm just a dope fiend in treatment right now who's getting into running, and she's going out of her way to pick me up. And she started to introduce me into the running community. And so she's taking me to group runs, and now we're training for this race and all this stuff. And so I'm on fire with it. And so I remember us being out on the trail one day, and she was teaching me how to run downhill. And so you got to be able to run downhill full speed with loose rocks and roots and gravel and not kill yourself. And so as we're doing this, I'm telling her my story. I'm telling her I got kicked out of the military, and I'm telling her ended up in treatment. And then I tell her I ended up with this girl. And at one point I said the girl's name. and she has a very unique name as a girl. It's not one you hear every day. And so we're running, and I said the girl's name, and Penny stops dead in her tracks, and she looks over at me, and she's like, Shawn, do you know my son? And I was like, who's your son? Her son was my young homeboy in the treatment center. She was the mother that 3 years before had come up and picked this stuff up off me. If that's not God working in my life, I don't know what is. That story could have went down so many different astronomical ways, where somebody could have got hurt, somebody, you know what I mean, stolen, who knows what could have happened. Giving back, going out of my way to give this stolen stuff back was probably the one honest thing I did in my entire addiction. I still to this day could not tell you why. But if that's not God, I don't know how you leave a city that's growing every day. I mean, we're in California right now. Half your state moved out to Texas within these past couple of years for whatever reason. It's a city that's growing every day. What is the astronomical chances that I leave this city that's growing every day for 3 years and I come back and get plugged in with the one person that would introduce me to an avenue that would save my life? Wow. Like, if that's not God, I don't know what is. So,
and that's beautiful, right? Because it's like your act of kindness in that one moment was to meet this woman, because you're going to need to run into her one day again in the future when you're sober, because that experience right there is going to be something that's going to forever change the idea of what God is to you and how it works. And it's beautiful because, again, God will exactly show himself and reveal himself in a way that we need, right? And some radical way like that. I mean, that's right. I mean, if people did like studies on that, like what is the percentage chance of that happening? It would be crazy, right? It's not a coincidence, right? It's a miracle, and that's how God works, right? And the way that we close this out, we do 4 speed questions. And so my first speed question is going to be, what are 3 books that you'd recommend for somebody to read that could completely transform their life?
I'm going to say Purpose Driven Life. I read while I was in prison, and then have read numerous times after that. Has done a lot for me every time I read it. Extreme Ownership.
Which is by Jocko Willink, right, on leadership?
Yes, book on leadership. And I think anybody that's looking to get into leadership, or even understanding how good leadership works or anything like that, I think is just a very valuable tool to have in life. And then the last one is, it's probably low-hanging fruit, but the Bible, or the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't think you have to be an alcoholic or an addict to read that book and get the benefits from it. So, and
for you, like, what do you feel like when you added the Bible to like your group of books? How do you feel like that one impacted your life for you specifically?
I remember what drew me to it at first was the fact of understanding. I'd heard some stories about Moses on a podcast, and I knew Moses part of the Red Sea, but outside of that, I didn't know completely what he had done. And then in the podcast, they had talked about how he's the only person that is represented in all 3 books, the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah. And so I think that was like a major moment where I was like, man, like, this is like history. I'm embarrassed that I don't know what this is all about. And so I think that was my initial thing. But just at the time I was going through in life was having that pull back towards God and wanting to hear the word, be hungry for it, wanting to understand it. And so I think that was just the kick in the ass I needed to go start doing it.
No, I love that. And then the Purpose-Driven Life one, for people who don't know what that is, I know what it is.
Yeah.
I've read that book, and I remember the first time I read that book, it was like, I loved that the way it's formatted.
Yeah.
And like every day I was stoked to like read it and take what it gave me and view the day in that way.
Yeah.
So like for somebody who hasn't read it, like what is it exactly?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a couple pages you read each day. There's just kind of a different lesson in life, or a different lesson through God and through that kind of language. And I mean, it really got me in touch with purpose and understanding. Like, I read it in prison, and I can remember sitting there reading it and contemplating, what is my purpose on this earth? Do I believe in God? Yes. Do I believe if I do believe in God, then he absolutely has a purpose for me in life. And it was a humbling moment, but a very real moment of understanding, like, I have brothers and sisters, and I remember sitting there in prison, and I had read that book, and I was like, all right, what if this is my purpose in life right now? Like, for me to be under the delusion that God wants me on this earth just for it to be sunshine and rainbows all the time, that's a very naive way of thinking. And so, as early in age, I had a lot to be proud of, and I was a big brother that could be looked up to. And then I had this epic crash and burn to the point where I'm sitting here in prison, and I was like, well, what if that's my purpose? If my purpose on this earth is for my brothers and sisters, to to be that learning lesson of them in their life. And if they choose not to go down this route and they choose a different route, then I would do it all over again. And so it was like just being able to understand the complexity of purpose in my life, and it may not always be what I want it to be.
Dude, I love that. How important purpose is, but it may not always be what I want it to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard this thing. It was like the path to where you want to get, it's going to happen, but it usually never looks the way you thought it was. And that's why most people stop and they give up, because they go, well, it doesn't look the way it's supposed to, so it's not going to happen. They give up when it's like, no, it was going to happen. It's just going to look different.
Yeah.
Because God always knows what we need, and we think we know what we need, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that idea that I love saying, like, God's like a GPS, that just trust and act if you feel like that's what God's will is for you, and he'll always get you on that right path.
Yep.
And then for this one's always a funny one, right? I always say, like, what is like the worst piece of advice someone's ever given you?
The worst piece of advice someone's ever given me. I have a tough time with this question. I don't even remember. I mean, the worst advice I ever got in addiction was somebody telling me that I could use vinegar to break down crack so I could shoot it. That was definitely the worst advice I ever got in that. But I think...
Did somebody do that to mess with you, or did somebody actually think that would work?
No, it works. That's what breaks it down.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
But then I found out you didn't just have to smoke crack; you could shoot crack.
Oh, gotcha.
Vinegar, lemon juice, any of that stuff works. Horrible to be shoving that poison in your veins, dude, in your veins.
Right, and then when we get sober, it's like, hey, I need high pH water. Yeah. I'm vegan.
Can't take Tylenol.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bougie with that. But I think probably the worst life advice. I worked in the treatment industry these past 6 or 7 years, and I made very good money doing it. Did well for myself during that time, and I remember I just wasn't getting fulfilled. I was working in the industry, I was helping people, but I think just the people it was tied to just didn't feel right to me anymore. It was a lot of people that were very comfortable with where they were at, and I have aspirations to do a lot higher. I feel like God has called me to do a lot higher things than just be comfortable or be okay. Mm-hmm. And so I do my podcast, I do my speaking and all that, and I decided that was the moment where I was going to bet on myself and do that. And I remember people looking at me like I was crazy. They're like, "You're gonna what? You're gonna do a podcast for what?" Yeah. And as soon as I did that, and as soon as I took that leap of faith and I started betting on myself, that's when things started taking off. That's when things started to do well. And I always go back to the original conversation I had with a very successful businessman, and he looked at me and he was like, "Shawn, there's no wrong answer to this question." He's like, "But do you want to build for other people, or do you want to build for yourself?" And when he told me that, it just hit me directly in the heart. And I really sat there and thought, and it was like, man, like, I've been making this industry or these other people a whole lot of money. Like, why am I not building this for myself? Mm-hmm. And so that's what gave me that initial kick to do it. And if I would have listened to those people and just took the comfort route, I wouldn't be sitting here today with you. And I wouldn't be doing all the things I'm doing now.
Yeah. And that's powerful too, because a lot of people will do what they feel like they're supposed to do because someone said this or said that, or people think 9 to 5 is the only way, or, people's failed dreams, they tend to put it on us to protect us, right? Not to hurt us. And there's a lot of people out there that will live their life for someone else, either with awareness or a lack of awareness. And then they end up, depressed, suicidal, and just unfulfilled. Mm-hmm. And, like, if we live like that long enough, it's not going to look pretty for us.
Right.
And so, I think it is amazing that you took that risk to step out in faith, right? It's not easy. It's not for everybody, but it was for you, and you did it. And now look what you get to experience. What is one mindset shift that completely changed your life?
I can remember running my first 100K.
And how many miles is 100K?
62 point something. I'm forgetting right now. It was my first 100K, and that was this major moment in my life where I took a look around and was like, wait a minute, I am capable of far more than I've been giving myself credit for. And so I think us, especially us that are the addicts and alcoholics, we end up in treatment, we end up in meetings all the time for years and years and years. And there's nothing wrong with it. You go to a meeting, we have a custom, you introduce yourself. I'm Shawn, I'm an alcoholic. I'm Shawn, I'm an addict. And I still do it to this day when it calls for it. But I think doing years of that, like, you're literally talking about yourself. If I had cancer, I wouldn't say, "Hi, I'm Shawn, I'm cancer." So why do we say it here? And I just think years of that kind of negative self-talk, of beating that down, And I remember running that 100K and I was like, wait a minute, like that is not me. Yes, it is something I suffer from, but that is not who I am as a person. Addicts, alcoholics aren't capable of going out and running 100Ks or 100 milers or anything like that. Like, they do drugs. They drink themselves to death. And so that was the major mind shift. And it was like, wait a minute, if I'm capable of doing this, what else am I capable of? And then you start realizing like only I have been putting, nobody told me I couldn't do this. I've been putting limitations on myself. And so that's, I mean, ever since I discovered that, my life has been completely different.
Yeah. And it's so true because I think like your mindset is everything, right? Your mind creates your reality. And what you think is what you're going to feel. And what you feel is you're going to act on it, right? And it all stems from a belief system. It's like, what do you believe to be true about life? And is it even a fact of life? Or is it just someone's opinion that's lingering inside you, right? And that's why a lot of people, get stuck in their ways because they think that's the only way, right? The fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. So I think it's beautiful that running taught you that, right? That, the mind is more capable of more than you think. And just because your mind's saying you can't doesn't mean you actually can't, right? And you kind of just get past it. You see like the thoughts kind of come and go, which is I think an amazing thing running does. And now for our last question, for someone that's watching this episode right now, they're in a place of depression, hopelessness, maybe addiction. They're just in a bad place and they feel like, you know what, like I can't get out of this. It's impossible. What piece of wisdom would you want to share with them to help them get out of that?
That there is a world out here where the things you are most ashamed of can be the things you are most proud of on this earth. I didn't know a world existed where we could take all this pain and understand that it has so much power once we give it the purpose of helping other people. I did not know the things that I was most ashamed of, that I buried deep down inside, I didn't want anybody to know, are now the things I'm most proud of to stand in front of hundreds of people and talk about. But when you use this experience and understand, show your family. You put your family through hell going through all this. Show them a world where you're out able to do this on a large scale and help as many people as you can and use that experience and show them it was all for nothing. It completely changes the dynamic to where, I'm uniquely qualified. You're uniquely qualified. Anybody who has overcome adversity and come onto the other side of it, as long as you're willing to open up and talk about it, you have the ability to touch and change people's lives. I didn't go to college. I'm not tremendously educated. I ran around and shot dope for years. I did not think that I had that capability in me. But the amount of messages I get every day, the amount of messages I'm sure you get every day, anybody that is out here doing their recovery out loud thing, anybody that has been through adversity or gotten over cancer or diseases or had troubled things happen to them when they were kids, any of these things, if you can go out there and you wear that badge proudly, you will understand when people start coming up to you with tears in their eyes saying you've changed their life. I mean, what better world could there be?
Yeah, it's that idea, right? When you apply purpose to your pain, you take back your power. Don't shame yourself for what you've been through, what you've done. If you shift the story and understand that's just a chapter of your book, right? It's not the beginning, it's not the end. It's actually the best part of your life because you can take all that. And like you said, giving people hope and changing people's lives, seeing that light in their eye is everything. That's a superpower. Not everybody can do that.
Exactly.
Not everybody has gone through what people go through that can offer that type of empathy and that type of support. And so I love that you shared that. So for you guys that are listening, just know that, God works in your weakness. So embrace it. We're not saying we're not justifying what you did. We're not saying you can just keep on getting away with it or none of that stuff. Guilt is a good thing to feel because guilt means that you don't want to do it again, that you care. But when you start changing your life and you look at it with purpose and give it meaning, guess what? It doesn't own you. It doesn't control you and you can break free from it. And the more you share your story, the less that it stings, right? And our story is someone else's antidote to what they're going through. And so I just want to say, Shawn, just like, thank you so much for being here, making the time. You're a good man. You're a good husband. I see that dynamic with you and your wife. I saw the dynamic with you and your friends. I could tell you really are about the people. You're not faking it. You're not trying to, play some type of game. You're like, this is who I am. I'm about the people. I just want to be around more people who are about people because I want to help people. And I can see that's all you want. You know what I mean? And that's very rare to find nowadays because you'll get people who just want the money. You get people who pretend and you get people who change, unfortunately, in the process of the success and the spotlight and whatever it is, right? And so just know that people are lucky to know you to have you in their life. And there's so many people right now that are breathing, that are experiencing love, that have their loved ones back because you decided to take what you went through and said, I will not drink and get high today, and I'm going to find ways to help people every day. So just know that who you are, there's a lot of people alive because of you today.
Thank you, bro.
So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I appreciate you. From our first conversation we ever had, I immediately could tell we were like-minded individuals, and for some reason, God just always seems to bring us together. And so from the first time I came out here to now, like, thank you for being the contact you are for me out here. Thank you for being the man that you are, a trusted brother. Dude, I appreciate who you are. So thank you.
Thank you, brother.